thought I'd do a bit of a State of the Nation update here and let you know what's going on, because it's been a while since I've done a video. I've had a few jobs on, I've had a few things on personally. I've got a very sick wee dog at the moment as well, which is messing me up a little bit. My wee mate, who goes everywhere with me, Arthur, he's a bit unwell, but that aside, I'm out here in the workshop just trying to get a few things done. The bench is clear, and clear is a relative term, as you can see, but the next job has been sitting at the back of the bench for a very long time, and it's something that makes me guilty, and I thought by putting it at the back of the bench it would spur me on to do it. It really hasn't, but the time has come. It's an Atwater Kent Model 708, and it's not something I have any personal experience with, but everything I have read on these says run away. I'm expecting a lot of rubber wire. I'm expecting an RF subchassis on the top which has wires too short to actually sensibly remove, so you end up cutting stuff. It's not probably going to be a whole lot of fun, but having said that, stuff that is not a lot of fun is often a lot of fun. This is the first non-Kiwi set that I've done on the channel, I think. It's certainly not the first non-Kiwi set. And I was going to try and keep the channel completely Kiwi radios, but actually this could be quite interesting. So I'm going to do it as a video, and I'll put it in its own viewing list of non-Kiwi sets, and there probably will be a few as I go along the way. It's time to make a start on that. Now, to do that, it's a big ugly heavy chassis. I've got it out of the cabinet now. The cabinet is going to be a whole nother ball game, and I don't know if it's in my wheelhouse to do it. I'm going to have a crack at it, but as soon as it looks like it's going to be beyond my skill set, I will pass it off to someone else, I think. First job is to clean up this god-awful mess that is all over my bench, that is doing my head in, and is slowly just encroaching in upon my workspace. So a wee bit of it I've actually just created because I've got this overhead view now. Hello. There's an old tripod that had a wee tumble, and so I thought I'd give that a go. I've got actually my dad's old Sony Cybershot camera up there, and it's, you know, we'll see how that turns out. It's 1080p capable, but I think it's interlaced. I don't know what the quality's going to be like, but we'll give it a go, because what's the worst that could possibly happen? And then over here, hello, we've got the old Panasonic Lumix, which may or may not survive. That's the one that's took the tumble with the tripod, and it's taken a few other beatings in its life. But I thought I'd give that a go. And then the new camera. Hello. The new camera is a Sony ZV-E10. I got that because this guy was playing up, and I wanted to get a new camera that was reasonably reliable, plus something that I can use for photographing vintage radios with. It's new, it's got a whole bunch of settings I don't understand. I'm going to have to learn to use a proper camera, I think. At the moment it's on auto. We'll leave it there for the time being, and hopefully I'll learn how to use it properly. So, what am I doing? Alright, so I've just moved the cameras around a little bit. I don't know about these camera angles yet. I'm so used to using one camera badly that using three cameras at once is going to present a few nightmares, I'm sure. But hey, it's all about learning. So, let's get the tangled mass of power cord and probably aerial wire out of the way. So this is an Atwater Kent 708. It's a 3-band broadcast and shortwave bands. It's got a very, very bad speaker. I may have a spare speaker that I can use. This one is not going to be liquid electrical tape and call it done. Dial's in good nick. We'll give that a clean up in the course of operations. The chassis is absolutely mint. If I didn't know how old this was, and from memory this is about 32, 33, probably 1932 at a guess. If I didn't know how old this was, I would have said that this chassis was made 2 weeks ago in a factory somewhere. It is in absolutely pristine condition. We'll get all the paperwork in the fullness of time, service details and what have you. We've got Atwater Kent Superhet model 708, 230 volt, so factory 230 volt. This is interesting because not all Atwater Kents were obviously imported as set to go on 230 volt. I did read somewhere, and I think it was Bill Farmer, who's a very well known, the go-to guy for transformer rewinds, and I think it was in one of his stories where he talked about being headhunted for a job to rewind 500 Atwater Kent transformers. So clearly they didn't all come in like that, but this one seems to be factory 230 volt. So everything's here, it's complete. It was a one family radio from, I think, near new. I believe when I talked to the guy when he first dropped it out, that the family bought it quite cheap. These were not a cheap radio. I've got an advert for one from a local publication here. They were not cheap. They were a high quality radio, and you paid for them. So based on the price that the family legend says that these were originally, or this one was originally picked up for, it may well have been second hand. And given that peephole radios were a thing up until about 1932-33, then the arc dials sort of came in and took their place for 1 or 2 years, and then by 1935 aerodials were a thing. And anyone that could afford one of these new probably had a fairly decent budget, and I imagine they maybe had this radio for 2 or 3 years and then went out and bought an aerodial set, because this would have been probably quite old-fashioned within a couple of years. So I suspect that the family bought it second-hand, but it probably was fairly new at the time, and it's been in that family ever since. So the current members of the family wish to have it restored and running, so that's what we're going to do. And as you can see, all the grid cap wires all completely perished, absolute garbage. You know, that's what rubber wire does, unfortunately, so we're going to have to replace all that. There is this sub chassis here which is also connected to the main chassis by, I am led to believe, a lot of rubber wires. So and not a great deal of length on those rubber wires, so when we undo this and start to lift it, we're going to probably end up reaching in underneath and snipping wires and taking careful note of where they go. I will be replacing the rubber wire with either cloth wire or modern PVC coated wire. I don't know yet what I'm going to use. It'll depend how much it needs, but it's certainly going to need to be replaced. So, have we look see underneath? Now, I will take the speaker off. Mounted to the chassis, it makes things very difficult, but the underside is a bit of a rat's nest. We've got wires that have little bits of sleeving on the ends. Now, I can't quite remember, but I suspect that these might be flexible resistors. We've got, oh dear, we've got some wires that have just been cut off. We'll figure it out. They're bound to go somewhere. Actually, this may be a capacitor block, and so the capacitors may have been removed to be replaced by these ones. So that could well be what the issue is. We'll deal with that when we get to it anyway. But yeah, rubber wire. Some of the rubber wire is actually pretty supple, but we won't be leaving it because it's rubber wire. So it's going to be a big job. I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to film. I'm not sure how many rude words I'm going to say. I am sure there'll be a few. I'm already thinking of a few. The power cord's going to have to go. It's not the original power cord. It's only a 2-wire cord. We'll check the schematic and see whether we can just slap a 3-wire cord in and earth it straight out. But yeah, this is the new project. It's not a Kiwi radio. I may, because I suspect this is going to be a big job, I may intersperse a Kiwi radio with it, because I've just got back a whole chunk of my bench, so I've got room for 2 radios now. Most people would say there still isn't even room for one. Finish tidying up your bench, you sloth. To that I say you are correct, but